The eCom Seller Summit was created to prove that with the right tools and training, anyone and everyone can make money in e-commerce. So many people want to try their hand at e-commerce, selling on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, and more, but they're afraid they won't be successful. This summit will show you that there's many ways to do e-commerce, and there are many platforms you can explore, because e-commerce really has no limits. It really can pay your bills, and e-commerce never sleeps. There's nothing like waking up to profits from getting sales all night long. My name is Nicole Whitlock, and this is the eCom Seller Summit. Hello, this is Nicole Whitlock with the eCom Seller Summit, and today's key feature speaker is Perry. I'm going to mess up his name because I forgot to ask him to pronounce it for me before we got started. Perry, how do you say your last name?
We pronounce it Coghlan, like there's a U in it.
Coghlan. Okay, Perry Coghlan. I have actually heard Perry speak before. It's been a while though, and he's also spoken on many stages. He's well known in the e-commerce community for his knowledge and for the business that him and his wife have created together. So Perry, I am so grateful that you're here today. I'm sorry I couldn't remember how to pronounce your name.
It's all good.
Go ahead and let you take it away.
Wonderful, thank you. So if you could go ahead and start the screen share. I want to teach people today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story and bring you along on my journey. But I want to teach you something. My talk today is called Lean FBA, how to work smarter and prep faster. And while the core of my business is Amazon FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, you can take the principles that I'm going to talk about today and apply them to any e-commerce business. You can apply them to your information systems and to your physical product, your physical processes rather. And that's where we're going to focus today. Now, a lot of speakers, when they talk on the conference trail, and me too, we like to share our why. And here's a big chunk of my why, right? But it goes a little deeper than than just my why as my family. My wife and I are evangelical Christians, and in Proverbs 13:22, it says, "A righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." And so that's part of what we're doing. We're trying to build an inheritance, not just for our 13 kids. We have 8 daughters and 5 sons, but also our 7 grandkids. We just found out that grandkid number 7 today, Nicole, is going to be a little boy. So that'll bring us to 3 girls and 4 boys.
Oh my goodness, congratulations.
Thank you. We're really excited. And so that's our why, that's our goal, that's our focus. But I want to stop and I want to tell you my story. I want to take you back in time to 2003 when I had just gotten my new job at a little company in San Antonio, and I found myself in over my head. I'd gone out to work or out to lunch with my new bosses, my boss and the CFO of the company, and I'd asked them, "How many packages do you guys ship in a year?" And very casually, my boss, Kevin, at the time, he said, "Oh, about 70 or 75,000. So you can imagine my shock, because I'd been hired from a chemical manufacturing company where we did about the same amount of business in a year, but they were doing it like $80 per package at a time. And we were at the chemical company, we were shipping like $30,000 barrels. And so the volume was way different. And then you can also imagine the sinking feeling I had in my chest when he said, "And half of that comes in the fourth quarter." Yeah, so what I found very quickly was that I had a prep problem. See, over the next 10 years that I ran that operation in the warehouse, we had to do more. We got more and more business in the fourth quarter. So more of our business shifted to the 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. And we would have this steep hockey stick curve where we went from 5 or 6 people in the warehouse in September and October to 10 or 15 in mid-November. And then we would have to have 40 or 50 people at full production by Black Friday. And we would go from 100 orders in October to 3,000 orders at the end of November on Black Friday. And it would stay that way all the way through Christmas. And while this was a Christian organization I worked for, I always like to joke that if you screwed up Johnny's little Johnny's Christmas present, his mom would forget her Christianity really quick.
That is true and unfortunate.
Right. So we always joke, we had this drawing on our whiteboard in the warehouse. The fourth quarter came at us like a huge wave, and it would always crash against us. And I know a lot of Amazon sellers can identify with this, right? The fourth quarter hustle. I was doing it easily 10 years before I ever shipped my first FBA order. And so year after year, it was a grind. Year after year, we were pouring more labor on top of the demand, but not really getting more efficient. And so we had to find a new way to look at our work. And that new way was lean management or lean thinking. See, lean management is a process improvement technique, a way of looking at your working and making it better that comes out of the Toyota production system. And I'll walk you through some of that in a little bit. But essentially what we want to do is teach you a new way to look at your work. We want you to be able to identify waste and value and rearrange your work so that you become more efficient and you do less of the things that cost you money. So I want to pause my story about lean and tell you a little bit about my business as an Amazon seller, because while having 13 kids and homeschooling, my wife and I started our Amazon business in late 2014, just before my fourth son, James, was born. And that was the end of October in 2014. And from there, we scaled pretty rapidly. So we dabbled in 2014 in clearance books, some textbooks, thrift store books, moved into some toys, and then shifted hard in January of 2015. We were off to the races. We found some courses on grocery RA, and she listened to a bunch of podcasts. I actually jokingly refer to myself as employee number 7. She hired my brother-in-law and 5 of the kids before she hired me. So midway through 2015, I was able to quit my job and join her full time. And from 2015 through the end of 2018, we nearly doubled every year for the next 4 years. And the way we handled that kind of exponential growth is by applying lean management principles and keeping our organization balanced. We had to create balance and make sure our product and our money flowed across our organization, or we would have been sunk pretty quickly. So that's a little bit about my Amazon business and how we scaled. I wanted you to know I'm a serious seller, but let's go back to 2000 and about 2005. I had this huge problem in my warehouse, my bookware. It was a book and toy catalog company, right? And we marketed heavily. We would release a catalog in the third quarter, and people would hold on to their catalog and buy all their Christmas presents from it. And Chuck came into my warehouse. Now, Chuck was a lean black belt. You'll hear a lot of judo terms, like your expertise is described based on judo belt colors, Japanese martial arts belt colors. I'll actually teach you a few Japanese words this afternoon. But Chuck was a lean black belt or a master black belt, and he was a consultant to very large companies. His kids, he was also a homeschooled dad, and his kids wanted to be able to work in my warehouse and earn Christmas money. And Chuck believed in our mission as a ministry and a publishing company, so he was just there to hang out with his kids and volunteer some time. Well, after about 2 weeks in my warehouse, Chuck came up to me and he said, "I don't really want to insult you, but your warehouse is driving me crazy. Could I give you some pointers?" So yeah, it was like in the cartoons where the clouds part, you know, and a little ray of light comes down on your head and angels start singing. Oh, that was that moment.
I feel like if I keep listening, I'm probably about to experience that same moment over here. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I'm really trying to, I'm not just going to talk about theory, but I'm going to give you some nuts and bolts where you can take some notes and you can go back and look at your work. So I absolutely embraced Chuck's offer. I was like, please teach me. And I embraced it because I was in a situation where I knew I had a problem, but I didn't even have the language to describe my problem. I don't know if you've ever had a workload where you could feel it was inefficient, and it was driving you crazy, but you just didn't know what the solution was.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Well, I had inherited this warehouse from a guy who didn't have any warehouse experience. And I had warehouse shipping experience, but it wasn't this kind of shipping experience. Between the two of us, we had built the best kind of system that we could, but it still wasn't great. And I was in my third year, let me think, fourth year when Chuck made this offer. So over the next year, he helped me to apply lean thinking to my warehouse. And he taught me to look at my work through new eyes. I think I mentioned that before. What I want to do is I want to teach you how to look at how you do your work, and I want to ruin you and your ability to keep doing your work this way you've been doing it. My kids tell me that it drives them crazy, and I can't help it. I felt like, have you seen The Matrix, Nicole?
Yes, I've seen The Matrix. We are huge Matrix fans over here.
Yeah. So how at the end when Neo, Keanu Reeves at the end, he can finally, like, he's the one, and he sees the green code, like he sees everything in code.
Yes.
That's what I want to do for you. I want you to break the code so that you and our audience that is listening to us today, they can look at their work and they can see it in a whole new way. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Scared, but ready.
So I'm going to walk you through lean management, and I'm going to walk you through some basic principles, like I said. But I first want you to understand that lean has 4 basic goals, okay? We're going to eliminate waste, reduce cost, improve quality, and increase the speed of our operations. Eliminating waste as a goal.
I'm going to make your full screen make this full screen so we can all see it very well.
Fantastic.
All right.
Okay, so eliminating waste. In order to identify waste, you have to understand what value is. Fair? And so value is always determined from the standpoint of your customer. And I want you to understand there's 2 kinds of customers. You have external and internal customers. So your external customer is the buyer, the purchaser at the end of the line. And they're the one that's going to determine what's valuable. And you don't want to add more. You don't want to add more to your product than what they find valuable, but you don't want to do less. But you also have an internal customer, and your internal customer is the next guy in the process. And process is just a fancy way of saying how we do our work. If you've been in the business world, you've probably seen block flow diagrams. The next step is usually in a new block.
Yep.
So the next step in the process. And what we want to do is we want to teach you to look at your work from the standpoint of your customer, identify what brings value and what is waste, and then redo your process in a way that eliminates that waste. You won't get there overnight, and it sounds a lot simpler. Well, I tell people it's kind of like FBA, like it's simple, but it's not easy. It takes a continuous effort across your organization, across an extended period of time to get there. The second goal in lean is to reduce your costs. 2 of my biggest costs as an e-commerce seller, besides inventory, 2 of my biggest costs are my warehouse, my facility costs, and my labor. What if I could teach you to do 2 or 3 times as much in the same space with the same amount of labor? Do you think that would increase your profits?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I've seen the application of lean do that time and time and time again, right? I've actually seen where the first year of my old warehouse, we did twice as much, literally shipped twice as many items. And that's from receiving to out the door with the same number of people. The third goal of lean is to improve quality. So when we improve the quality of our work, the quality of our prep, the quality of our process, less errors get through to the final customer. What happens in the Amazon world when less errors get through to the final customer? Well, you get less bad reviews. And I know this will disappoint you guys, but you won't have to talk to seller performance quite as often. Most sellers don't cherish the idea of talking to seller performance or account health, right?
Correct.
So we're going to set as a goal to improve the quality of our work in such a way that it increases customer satisfaction and therefore reduces our administration time. And then the last goal is an increasing speed, but this is, to me, it's almost a byproduct. You do want to pursue efficiency and speed, shorten your time to market, whether it's from the time you buy it in RA or OA to getting it to the Amazon customer fulfillment center, or it's your lead times and developing private label or acquiring wholesale accounts. You want to increase speed. Your time to market very often it directly impacts your profitability. But when you eliminate waste, you reduce costs, and you improve quality, you're going to increase speed as a byproduct of those three steps. And it's like when a kid, if you had a skateboard or a roller skate or an inline skate, they had a ball bearing in the wheel. The waste is going to be like dirt getting in your ball bearing. The more waste you have in your organization, the harder you have to work to turn that wheel the same speed, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So as we take these other considerations, we take all this other gunk out of our wheels, our organization spins faster and more efficiently with less and less effort. And I just, you have to believe me. If you try it, it'll change your world.
Well, and this is probably the best time to implement those changes because, it is March. And so it's a great opportunity for you to begin the process of evaluating your business and then implement some of these changes gradually so that by the time you get closer and closer to August, you're running more efficiently and you have a more profitable Q4.
Absolutely. I actually learned the hard way. You don't want to make these kind of changes in October.
No.
Before
this is the window. Yeah. Make it in April and May. Don't make it then.
Absolutely. When I teach people about this stuff, one of my favorite quotes to remind them of is what Archimedes said. I believe it was Archimedes. He said, "You give me a big enough lever and a place to stand, and I can move the world." These techniques, eliminating waste, is one surefire way to create that lever for your physical processes in your business. I can't emphasize that enough. All right, so that's our 4 goals. There are 3 categories of waste. 3 categories of waste. I'm going to walk you through all 3 of them briefly, but then we're going to dive into the first one. So the 3 categories, get ready to learn some Japanese, are muda, mura, and muri. Muda is it's wasted physical effort. It comes from the Japanese word means futility. You're doing things that don't bring value to your process. You're doing pointless things. And it can be as pointless as taking an extra photograph of a product that you don't need or moving stuff around the room. You really need to learn the 8 kinds of waste that I'm going to teach you today, the 8 kinds of muda, and just go on a war against muda in your organization. But when you have too much futility in your work, what you're going to create inadvertently is mura and muri. You're going to create unevenness or overburden. Unevenness in the form in the RA or OA world, it's a lot more fun to buy stuff than it is to ship stuff. Do you think that's a fair description?
Yeah, it is more fun to go out and source than it is to send it in because the sending in is work.
Right. Well, so what do you do when you do that? If you shop for 3, 4, 5 days, you create this huge pile, this huge unevenness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you come home, you take a break, and then you work yourself to death getting it all out because you waited a little bit longer than you wanted to because it was such a huge pile and you didn't want to deal with it. And now you get exhausted. So you created unevenness in your process. And by having too much stuff in your work area, you probably created some physical waste in your work. And then you overburdened yourself. You killed yourself trying to get it out. And so that's kind of how those 3 things interplay.
Yeah.
So next, I want to take you into, pardon me, let me take a little sip. I want to take you into muda, and this is where we're going to spend a lot of time together today. I want to walk you through the 8 kinds of waste, physical waste that we're all guilty of. I want to explain each one to you. And then I'm going to give you a couple of specific tools that you can use to combat waste. So I want you to look at this chart, and I want you to realize it makes a really cool acronym, right? Downtime, defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilized talent. Those are 4. And then time, inventory, motion, and extra processing. Okay. The first one is pretty obvious. Defects. My dad used to say, if you, our parents used to say, always do it right the first time. Don't screw it up. My father-in-law used to say, if you don't have time to do it the first time, you probably don't have time to do it again. The idea is you're wasting time. When you don't do things right the first time, you're wasting time. And I'm not going to beat up on this one. It's pretty obvious. Mistakes cost us money. Whether you're going to have to reorder product and throw it away, whether you're going to have to rebag something that was improperly prepped, redo an ad campaign. If you take the time to set up procedures to make sure things get done right the first time, and that you root cause problems when they happen, you can begin to take defects out of your process. You can begin to error-proof your process so you're not doing the same work over. And feel free, if I say something you feel like needs more clarification, feel free to jump in.
Definitely. I do like the acronym of downtime, though. That's actually pretty cool.
Thanks. So the second waste the second physical waste in lean is overproduction. This is difficult for Americans to wrap their minds around, almost at a genetic level. It's in our DNA. What are we known for? We're known for assembly line production. We're so known for mass production. We all have heard the term economies of scale, right? You buy more, you get it cheaper. You do the same thing over and over again, you can do it faster. But the problem is that's often not true on a small scale. And so just like we talk about unevenness, overproduction, at least in an Amazon FBA kind of an environment, might mean buying too much product, shipping too much product in at once, not maintaining your restock and your replens properly, and creating extra fees, which drive up your costs. But even on a smaller level, and when we get to motion, I'm going to show you guys a video of my prep process. We actually limit production in between each step of the process. So we only work about 4 or 5 pieces ahead of the next step of the process. I will remove the tags or the labels from 5 pieces. Then I'll fold and bag 5 pieces, and then I'll ship 5 pieces. And in this way, we're creating flow, and we're eliminating batches or overproduction from our work process. And we've tried to practice this as a discipline almost from the very beginning of the business. When it was just Kim and I doing the shopping and the shipping, we would sometimes shop in the morning and ship in the afternoon, but we certainly wouldn't buy more in one day than we could ship the next day.
Okay.
So after overproduction comes the waste of waiting. Waiting is really interesting. A lot of these wastes, I want you guys to think of a lot of these wastes in terms of not just your people, but also your product. And it relates to overproduction. Where is your product waiting to be shipped? Where are your people waiting? It's pretty obvious if someone's standing around that that's wasted wait time. But if you're working in tandem with your team, you need to look at how much waiting does your product or your people spend between steps. And one of the ways that you actually reduce waiting in your process is by cross-training people, cross-competencies. Cross-competency will let people move between steps in your work and fill those tiny little gaps. Then this I'll go back to overproduction for a second. In my old warehouse, we would often shrink wrap CDs. We would produce CDs. We were also an audio video ministry. We would produce CDs and DVDs in-house. And what we realized is we were producing hundreds of CDs ahead of time of expected wait turns or sell times. But when we brought it down to a very small, manageable unit per SKU, and we replenish more often, we reduced the amount of space we needed in the warehouse. We reduced the amount of time that product was waiting to be sold, and we reduced our overhead overall. So it's kind of a cool phenomenon to see. So instead of having someone stand there shrink wrap for 8 hours a day, people were able to shrink wrap those CDs like 20 minutes a day, just what we needed for that day's orders. And then I was able to take one whole person a day and redeploy them on packing and shipping so the customer got their product faster. And so we reduced our overproduction on CDs, which also reduced our wait time for a lot of our product, which reduced our cost of goods. So they're all kind of cascade together. Uh-oh, crap. My laptop became unplugged. How embarrassing.
It's all good. This is so people know we're real people. This is real stuff, people.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so after waiting is non-utilized talent, and that brings us to the end of down. Non-utilized talent really speaks to us as business owners and managers in our organization. The idea is we need to make sure that our people we've got the right people in the right jobs, that our people have the right training, and they have the right tools. And I like to tell people, don't be a cheapskate. Tape guns are only $20. Heat guns are only $20. Buy an extra one. Make sure your people have the tools and the training they need to get the jobs done that you're asking them to. But a little better way of saying it is you are becoming the problem solver for your organization. You need to view yourself as the person who's going to make sure you've got the right people plugged into the right jobs, but that also you're removing the obstacles from their path. So you become the guy who clears the road so they can sail forward smoothly, right?
Okay.
The second half of our 8 acronyms is transportation. And this is where I want to jump in and give you our first tool. We're going to talk, transportation is very simply moving stuff around inside your process more than you need to. And I want to teach you briefly today about spaghetti diagrams. Spaghetti diagram, here's the fancy pants explanation. It's a diagram tracing the physical path, person, or material through a process. A spaghetti map will immediately identify motion or transportation ways in a visible manner. Well, that sounds fancy, but what does it really mean? You guys remember Billy and Family Circus?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, Billy was the original spaghetti map, okay? What happens here? Mom says, Billy, excuse me, Billy, will you run out to the mailbox or run these out to the mailbox? I need them to go out today. And Billy does anything but that, right? Right. So, Nicole, can you spot the wasted transportation that Billy committed on his way to the mailbox?
Everywhere.
Right. So many e-commerce sellers start in their living room or their garage. So many e-commerce sellers add a little bit more onto their workflow, a little bit onto their process without ever looking at how they transport things through their workflow. And so many of us, me included when I first started, are guilty of this, right? So let's walk through a sample spaghetti map. Can you see my mouse on the screen?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So this is kind of a mashup of several different people who I've helped straighten out their workflow. I've seen these kinds of things. Many of us are guilty of these kinds of things. This door down here at the bottom, just assume that goes like out to the garage where you back your car in, right? And so when you started, you put up some shelves and you go out shopping for the day. This is like retail arbitrage, or it could be online arbitrage where people drop off UPS in the front of your house. And so what do? You open your door to your garage, you go out to the car, and you make 8 or 10 trips, and you unload them and sort things on your shelf, right? Now, I need to pause right here because I want to tell you how to do a spaghetti diagram before I finish this up. What you do is you make a diagram of your work area. It's really simple. It doesn't have to be to scale, but you put in all your work tables, you put in all the walls that you can, and then you follow somebody through a typical workday. After my warehouse job, after that company shut down, I was hired by Chuck, my mentor, to work in hospital material management, healthcare materials management. And I was part of a project where in an ICU ward, we actually used a spaghetti map. We got a floor plan of the ward. We followed nurses through their typical day, and we drew every little step that they took. And what we found is these nurses were walking an average of about 8 miles in 8 hours. That was pretty exhausting work.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just felt like they'd been beat with a stick by the end of their shift, you know? And so by making some simple workflow tweaks, which I'm going to demonstrate here in the next couple of slides, we were able to cut their walking and transportation throughout their 8-hour shift down to about 2 miles. They literally walked 75% less in 8 hours because we aligned their tools and their materials inside of their process where they needed them. And so that's what you're going to do. Typically, I will take one color. I like to use orange for product and green for people. And in this spaghetti diagram we're going to walk through right now, we're going to use, just imagine this is a person moving through this process, okay? So like I said, we back up to the door. We start pulling shopping bags out, or we're carrying UPS boxes if it's online arbitrage, and we carry them through across the room and we stack them on the shelf. And so you draw a line for each trip. You go back to the garage, you come back to the shelves, and it takes you on an average day about 10 trips to get it all in and sorted. So you draw 10 lines. After that, you're a photo taker. So you're gonna want to do photos, and your shelves aren't on wheels. So you're going to walk 8 to 10 times back and forth to the photo table. And then maybe at the same time, you're going to pass it over to the listing table, right? And so after you take the photo, you're going to stack it over here. You're going to list it. And then after that, you're going to carry it over to the prep table, and you're going to prep it, and then you're going to hand it over. But these are all multiple trips to get it all done, right? And so you're going to draw a line for each trip and hand it to the shipping station. And the shipper is going to enter it into your Amazon shipment, create your box contents. And then because you're such a nice person, because we're all nice people, we don't want our UPS or FedEx driver, who, by the way, they get paid to carry boxes. We don't want them to carry boxes too far. So what do? We carry it across the room, and that takes maybe only 3 trips. But we want to make it easier on the guy who gets paid to carry boxes. We don't want him to have to carry our boxes too far. So we stack it near the door here. Now, Nicole, does this seem somewhat familiar to you?
It does, aspects of it. I can already see, some of the inefficiencies. Although I do try to make sure, like when we bring things in, my tables are a little closer, I guess, but yeah, aspects of this look and feel familiar, so I get it. I would say definitely when I first started, I was definitely a scatter diagram.
Yeah. And then as you grew, like pressure made you get a little better, right? A lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
That's typically what happens. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you, without talking about if every step is necessary, right? Pardon me. Without talking about if every step is necessary, I'm simply going to realign the steps that are being done in this workflow. I'm going to put some things on wheels, and I'm going to line them up in a line to make it more efficient, okay? And so this is what your before spaghetti diagram on a lot of beginning FBA sellers workflow will look like. And this is what it, after you have a chance to study and think about your spaghetti diagram, what it could look like. So again, we can't change the location of the doors. We're going to carry stuff in, but now maybe you replaced your shelves with no wheels with shelves with wheels. And if you size it right for the door, you might even be able to take your shelf into the garage right next to the car and unload directly to the shelf. You've got 2 shelves here in the diagram. If they're on wheels, as you empty one, you can pull the other one up to the shelf and rotate the empty one to the back. You're creating a natural first in, first out flow so that you don't accidentally let older inventory sit around, which is really good in an inventory-based business. And now we've aligned same workflow. Where there's a couple of things. You want to put your tables close together. You want to put your product close to your table. I prefer standing when we work. All of our tables are on bed risers, so they're all ergonomic and at countertop height. And that's a very inexpensive way to raise your tables up without buying fancy raised desks or anything. Cinder blocks work too. Your photo guy can grab it off the shelf. Let's just pretend we've got two people working in this work process, right? He takes the picture and he hands it to the prep table. Now, if he gets 5 ahead of the prep guy, he can come over to the listing table. The prep guy doesn't have to move. He can prep and hand it to the listing table. And when he gets 5 ahead of the listing guy, he can come over to the shipping station and start shipping. Meanwhile, the listing guy can finish up and go back to the photo table. So what have we done? We've created a single monodirectional path through our workflow. It comes in one direction. It follows one direction. We've eliminated some touches and some movement. And at the end of our process up here, our boxes land on the floor close to the end of our workflow and our process, so people aren't carrying their boxes around their room after they're finished. Now, remember I told you about internal customers, right?
Yes. Yep.
So a UPS is our internal customer. Even though I'm a little bit cynical, like we're paying them to carry boxes, let them carry boxes. In my workflow, what I did was I turned this entire diagram 90 degrees so that my process finishes up right next to the door. So we're serving our internal customer by making his life easier without creating any extra waste in the diagram. And much like this diagram, I have a receiving door and a shipping door. And if you don't, you just have a circular path instead of an L-shaped path. There's many different ways to handle it. But in a nutshell, that's how you use a spaghetti diagram to analyze transportation waste within your process. Okay, so after transportation, our 6th waste, if I can count right, I was homeschooled. I'm not sure I can some days. Our 6th waste is inventory. And a lot of people don't think about inventory as being a waste. But I want you to think about your inventory, whether it's your product inventory or your supply inventory, as a big interest-free bank that takes you way too long to get your money out of, right? And I want to dive right in specifically to your supply inventory because most people feel that's much more controllable. So your supply inventory can be controlled. An inventory is a waste. You're buying stuff before you need it. It's sitting around not making you any money. If you buy too much, that's a form of overproduction. If you have a small workspace and you buy 500 boxes, now what have you done? You're probably going to have to move the boxes around. You may bang the boxes up and create defects. You're definitely going to have extra motion and transportation as you have to carry your product around and over and deal with this huge pile of supplies that you have in your warehouse or your workspace. And so I'm going to give you a method that you can shrink your supplies down to just enough, only have on hand what you need to get through the period of time you determine you need, but not more than that, right? And then never run out of anything. And it's another, I'm going to teach you some more Japanese. It's another word called Kanban. And we're going to use Kanban cards, okay? And I use this in my warehouse. What you do is in my warehouse, I used to add bins, like picking bins. And I put half my stock in one bin and half in the other. And when the front bin was empty, we could pull the back bin out and use it. And go refill the front bin and refill it before we ran out of stock. But we weren't guessing what we were about to run out of. We were only refilling what we needed. I did the same thing in hospital supply rooms. So the nurses had a bad habit of, there was that one thing. So when you have too much inventory, you're always going to guess wrong. You're not meeting actual demand. The nurse would guess that they're going to run out of 20cc syringes. And this hospital that I worked for had 400 beds and I don't know how many nurses, and every nurse had her own private stash, right? Plus the inventory clerks didn't want to get yelled at for running out, so they were shoving more into the supply rooms than they needed. And my conservative estimate in one hospital was that they were driving up their supply cost between $50,000 and $80,000 a year with all this extra stash. So what we did is we came in and we gave them Kanban cards and Kanban bins. And Kanban is a Japanese word that literally means a cue card. What it's come to evolve to mean is a visual trigger or signal. So you've got your connotation and your denotation. And the technical definition of the word is cue card or placard or billboard or something like that. But what it means is we need a visual trigger to tell us when we need more parts or we need to start work, right? And so my Kanban cards are very simple. I got this image from the web, and you can actually go and buy these online at Creative Safety Supply. But what I do is I take a piece of pink paper and I write down the item. And if we're ordering on Amazon, for instance, we write down the ASIN, we write down how much we order, the storage location, and the website that we buy it from. Because we also buy from eBay, we buy some supplies from Walmart, we buy some supplies from Costco, and we buy from Bubble Fast and the Boxery. And we actually have a local cardboard supplier. So we have a lot of different suppliers. But by putting all this information on the card, let's just focus on our let's just focus on bags, because everybody bags stuff, right? Yep. We're able to only keep 2 cases of any given size bag in stock. And if you can switch it back to my camera view, I'll show you how here. Just pretend like these 2 books are a case of each the same kind of bag. These are my 9x12 bags, right? And so I have a full case on the bottom and an open case on the top. And we're going to use this open case. And when we're done, throw the box away. And what happens? We come to our Kanban card. Our Kanban card has all the data on it that I described on the slide. That goes in our special place for reordering, and we open this box. Now, the idea is however much is on the bottom is enough to get you through till your order comes in. And that's going to look different. Your safety stock will look different for every single supplier. eBay takes a little longer than Amazon Prime. Ordering directly from the company, it might take longer than Amazon Prime. So in our actual case of 9x12s, our most common bag, because we're shipping like 12,000 pieces a week, counting our third-party prep clients, this is 3 cases on the bottom and 2 cases on the top. But regardless, if it's 1 for 1, when you get that Kanban card, that's your signal. Order it that day. Don't wait. You order it. Then you use this. Then when the fresh box comes in, you put it on the bottom. You put your Kanban card back in. Then you set your open case on the top, and you're creating that cycle. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. If you can go ahead and put it back on my. Okay, yep. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the whole the first thing, the first one that was in is the first going out, and the last one is in is you put that one on the bottom, so you're always taking, you're getting your oldest inventory out the door first.
Sure. And so I'll give you a couple more quick ideas because I don't want to. You can do it with bins. We have 2 empty cardboard boxes, and we refill with rubber bands. So when we pull the front bin out, that's our signal to reorder before the back bin gets used up. You can take a Kanban card and rubber band it to something that's loose. Like we've done that with our rubber bands, actually. So when you get down to that last pack and you open that last pack and you pull it out, we do it with our Dymo labels, because a case of Dymo labels or product labels, when you open that last box, you're going to get a new one in from Prime well before you use up that roll. So you don't have to have 2. In the hospital, we use watermarks. We'd put a piece of tape on the wall and stack bedpans up, because you can't get a bin big enough for these bedpans, right? But when they used the bedpans down to where the marks showed, it was time to order. So there's all sorts of cool ways that you can do visual signals or Kanban cards or Kanban signals for your inventory. Okay, so our next waste number 7 is motion. So motion is movement. It's different from transportation. We're not pulling things through our process, right? We're talking about moving left to right and up and down, moving stuff back and forth across the workspace. And what I want to do is I want to show you in a second a video of my team and how we've reduced motions. And I can actually point out a couple of more tools to reduce motion in your prep setup. And hopefully it'll be a springboard for your imagination to look at how you can reduce motion inside of your process. But we have a design. I'll go ahead and switch over to the slide. I'll start the video in just a second. We have a design process or a design ethic that we don't want to move too far left or right. And I say we don't want to reach where our reach is nose to knees. We never want to have to repetitively reach above our nose or below our knees because that creates strain and wasted time. We do stand up because we don't have as much motion moving around, reaching for stuff when we're standing. It's easier to reach things. It's easier to reach to each other. So as I start the video, I want you to notice I have 2 shelves on my workspace. The very top shelf is for stuff we don't use as often. That big bag right there is our backpack bag. That's either an 18 by 24 or 24 by 24. Notice that they're folding clothes. We have 2 different basic setups. We sell shoes and clothes. We also sell shoes and we sell clothes regular. So the rubber band we use to help keep shoe boxes closed, but when they're doing clothes, they don't need it. So they put it way up top where it's out of their reach. I want you to notice the blue lines on the table. This is a way of standardizing our work. And I'm going to go ahead and start the video. I may play it twice. The blue lines are a way of standardizing our work. So we put our tools in the same spot. And so we have, you notice to the left of Gloria, the little piece of tape that says heat gun. When the heat gun's on the table, that's where she sets it every time. We have blue tape that says scraper. We have blue tape that says tape caddy, cleaner, different things. So everybody's doing the job the same way every time. Notice when Gloria in the pink shirt is ahead of Laura in the gray shirt, that Gloria will actually partially fold and get it ready for Laura to finish bagging. But when Gloria is slightly behind and Laura's waiting, Gloria will hand it to her and let her do the whole fold. So what we've got there is cross-training where they can easily adapt to the tempo and the pace. Incidentally, Chris down there on the end, he's using Scan and Ship, which broke my heart when Amazon. We have a little bit different setup now. But my product, it starts on the black rack. It moves straight down the table. It doesn't go back and forth across the table. My people have everything they need within reach, so they're not moving left or right, and they're not reaching too high above. One other quick thing before we move on that I want to point out is at one point in this video, you'll see Gloria, she'll spot an error, which is a 2-piece set missing a top, and she sets it aside. So since we're only dealing with 1 piece at a time, we can quickly and easily spot errors. This pace right here is about a 30 items per man hour pace kept up over the course of the day. It's a very easy pace when you take the waste out of your process. You can work faster without working harder. The Army Rangers, I understand it, have a saying, which is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And we try to practice that in our work.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Okay.
Yeah. Speed comes with time. In other words, get the motions down. All right. So that brings us to last waste. And then I want to give you guys some book recommendations. I hope this has been helpful. Our last waste is extra processing. And many e-commerce sellers, especially Amazon sellers, are guilty of this. Probably eBay sellers are guilty of this too. And that's doing extra processing is simply doing more work than you need to meet the specifications of the job. How many of us do things because we heard we might get in trouble if we don't? And a good, right? A good example of that is if you're doing retail arbitrage, you take a picture of the receipt with your product. You don't just take a picture of the receipt with your product. You scroll through your receipt and find the exact line item on the receipt, and then you take enough pictures so that you can read it. I do thousands of items of retail arbitrage a month, and I'm here to tell you that's extra processing. You don't need to do that. Other ways that people extra process in shoes and clothes prep, they almost want to iron the clothes. They spend so much time making those clothes perfect. And my live talks, I have a joke. I'll have a shirt folded and bagged, and I'll hold it, and I'll say, by the time you get it received in Amazon and UPS delivers it, and I'll throw the shirt into the audience to make the point that you need to make it good. You want the customer to see what they're expecting, which is a brand new, nicely folded Nike shirt, for instance. But it doesn't have to be permanent pressed, right? That's extra processing because it's not going to make any difference. You're just doing extra work. And then one last example from outside of Amazon is I like to use is Microsoft built a Visual Basic Programming editor into Microsoft Word. They did extra work, extra processing, and I don't know a single self-respecting programmer that would ever do any programming inside of Microsoft Word, right?
Right.
Yeah, they created features where no features were needed. So that's, pardon me, that's the 8 wastes. Downtime, that's a few ways to apply and a few low-hanging fruit that you can take and begin to make changes in your organization right now. And I want to leave you with this vision before I give you my book recommendations. I hope I gave you new eyes today. I hope I gave you new vision today. I hope you are ruined for how you used to do your work, and you have a new set of tools and a new way of looking at your work so you can go and begin to see waste in your organization, identify value, and do things that bring your organization, your people, and your customers real value. And I want to give you a new mission, and that's to find the waste and get it out of your organization. Find the waste in your work. It'll make your life easier. It'll make your business more profitable, and it'll make your customers happy, which is ultimately what we're all trying to do. Now, here are 4 recommendations, and I've actually got a couple of these books here on my desk I was using, and I give these away when people come visit us here in the shop. I give 2 of them away. So the first recommendation, the book is on Amazon. It's called The Gold by Eli Goldratt. And this isn't specifically about lean, but it's a novel. It looks real technical on the cover. It took me years to read it. And when I finally did, I was like, this is awesome. It's one of my wife's favorite business books. The goal will help you think through the constraints of your business, understand what bottlenecks are in your business, and then you can take lean tools and use them to alleviate those bottlenecks. The second book is actually the third one on my list here, Lean Thinking. That's the first lean book you should read if you want to, if you really want to understand and take a deeper dive into lean thinking, lean tools, and how people in other industries apply them. The third book is Lean Solutions. And Lean Solutions takes lean principles and applies it to information and office kind of systems, customer service, constructing processes that aren't necessarily manufacturing processes. And then the last one is the newest one on my personal list that I read last year. And it really helped us with project management and Scrum, doing twice the work in half the time, is actually help you take a kind of Kanban and use it for project management. So
read that one for sure, because I'm a former project manager. So
yeah, and it's actually an evolution of informational Kanban that a lot of programmers and project managers use, and it's a kind of a new twist. It's a really fascinating book, and we try to have short 10-minute Scrum sprint meetings every day to just make sure we're all aligned and have the same goals. So that's it. I don't know, is this a good time to tell people how to sign up for our email list?
Oh, definitely. Go for it.
Okay. So if you guys want to stay in touch with me and what I'm doing, go to perryandkim.com/list, and you can sign up for our email list. It's not a pitch fest. We try to keep you updated, not only where we're speaking next or like what conferences we go to, but exciting updates and developments in how we learn and teach lean and stuff like that. So with that, I'm done. I'll throw it back to you, Nicole.
All right. Well, get that information. Perry, you have been amazing. If you all, now I'm going to take this off the screen for just a second.
Sure.
All right. If you all decide that the information Perry shared was helpful, definitely I hope you took the opportunity to take notes. You can rewatch the replay if you're looking at it on the day that it's broadcast. But if you want to gain access to Perry's amazing giveaway, he is giving away free access to his masterclass. So you are mastermind group, sorry. If you would like that, then you need to upgrade to the all access pass. So we encourage you. There's still an opportunity for you to do that. All of Perry's information is on this page, so you can take advantage of that information as well, and definitely gain access to his masterclass because it's going to be worth it. Perry, I do have one question for you. So
Sure.
you moved into, now you're at a 3,000 square foot warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
How many employees do you have? Like, I would call it during the off season. We won't talk about the on season, but how many employees?
So we don't hard shift into seasonal items in December. We have about the same amount of people all year. We might pick up an extra person or two, but we typically have 5 to 6 people in the warehouse on any given day, and locally 5 to 6 people shopping. We actually have some remotes, but they do their own prep and ship. So we have people in 3 cities that are doing buying and shipping for us. But overall, it's 6 people shopping and 6 people prepping and shipping on a given day.
Oh my goodness. Joy does, well, she's outsourced her buying as well. So there's another strategy. Definitely check out Joy's session. It's also part of the summit. So Perry, I am grateful for you. I'm thankful for you. The information you shared was helpful. It's definitely going to make me revisit my operations. And I appreciate you. So thank you for taking the time to share this awesome information with everyone in the summit. This was a blessing to you all. And please don't forget to upgrade.
Cool.
Thank you, Perry.